Hey, what's going on? It's Dr. Ben. I'm a chiropractor with another pre-chiro podcast interview. Today we're connecting with a practicing chiropractor professional who I believe recently graduated. I'm not sure how long ago, but Dr. Alex Lee, thank you for taking some time to share with anyone who's considering this path of becoming a chiropractor one day. Can we get started by you just introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about what your background was before you went to chiropractic school
Sure.
and what attracted you to become a chiropractor?
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me on bright and early at 5:46 in the morning, Pacific Coast time, or Pacific Standard Time, whatever it is. So yeah, big question there. Um, Before chiropractic school, I was a Division I athlete. I played baseball at Wofford College in South Carolina, and I ended the college career with a back injury. So I was a patient turned chiro student turned doctor. Um, which I think is a pretty similar. A lot of people I feel like there was kind of three ways that it would happen. Either people would be like, in a family of chiropractors and kind of go to school from that route. Some people were patients that just had a great experience. They were either like CAs, they worked in an office, and they loved it, and that was what they decided to do. And then there was this other like group of people that didn't really know why they were in chiro school. And I don't know if you had that experience, but it was people that were almost like trying to figure out why they were there for a lot of the time. And I feel like if there's any like little snippet that you can take from this and like give to anybody who's like trying to figure out why they're going to go to chiro school or why they're going to do anything in their life, figure out as much as you can, solidify the reason why you're doing it and the passion behind it before you just you go into it and hope that it kind of happens there. At the same time, don't have unrealistic expectations and romanticize what it's going to be. But the people that really did well were the people that either were convicted because they grew up in a chiropractic environment and a natural environment, or they just had this experience similar to what I had that was almost like a dehumanizing experience going to like more of a Western approach. I went to PT, I went to specialists, I went to other chiropractors even. And it wasn't until I went to, literally, it was an intern at Life University in Atlanta. That was the first, person that spoke vitalism and principle to me, so that I really understood that it was, more than just neck pain, back pain. It was, interference to the nervous system and how we interpret the world. And when I got my first adjustment, it wasn't like one of those like light bulb things went off. It was just like I had clarity for the first time in a while. And I started to just kind of get like intention and drive back in my life. And I was really floundering in like my early mid-20s until then. And then, we can get into more of the story, I guess. But I feel like it's a good jumping off point. About a year after that is when I kind of realized that I wanted to become a chiropractor. And it just kind of like, I woke up one morning and it just kind of hit me that, I had been telling family and friends and all these people that I knew to get under care, and was still trying to kind of like rationalize in my head what chiropractic, what it is and what it was. And, still to this day I am, but I think that out of all the, I'd say health professions, out of all the approaches that you can take, it's probably the best catalyst for making change in any other area of your life. And there, just like there's good people in every profession, there's bad ones too. Like you can go to the wrong chiropractor, you can go to the wrong medical doctor, you can go to the wrong firefighter. Like it's endless there. But I think that on the whole, more chiropractors have it right than don't. So I think my voice cracked right there. So throw back to when I was 13, going through puberty. So
Right. Yeah, while you're taking that sip, try and put do not disturb on your phone, because every time you get a message, it gets choppy, and we can edit this part out. But if it's not on do not disturb, please do that.
It went, what did it do? It did the low power mode.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I got 20%. We're chilling.
All right, we're good. All right, my bad.
Yeah.
All right, so back to it. So entering into chiropractic school, what did you get attracted to? What were some surprises you encountered or some challenges you faced? And also, what did you gravitate towards? What were your interests?
Yeah. All right. So easiest way to kind of start with that one. I just looked at a lot of the chiropractors that, I knew, and a lot of the chiropractors that I'd gotten connected to, and it just all seemed like they were like happy and they had their shit together, and they were just going in a good direction, and they really liked going to work every day. And that was something that, I was after college, I was running a baseball training academy and working with kids anywhere from like college age down to 5 years old. And I just kind of felt like there was a ceiling to what I could help people with. And I just knew that there was more that I could be influencing. Like, I feel like I got into coaching baseball because there was nothing else that I really, gravitated towards when I got through with undergrad. Mm-hmm. And then there was almost like a layer of me that I had to shed before I could kind of like, untether myself and allow myself to make the decision to step into becoming a chiropractor. So, but what I really gravitated towards was, being able to run my own cash practice, not being in the insurance model, and just be able to, show up to work every day and be able to say, okay, like, this is mine. This is going to attract the right kind of people in. And then, the whole notion of you make them a better person, and they're, all of a sudden a better family member, a better, person at work, a better community member, all that. And just being able to really see like the ripple effect of what me being able to open a place with intention and start that up and kind of create that change in people's lives. Like that's still what gets me really fired up. And then also what we said before the call, which we can kind of get into in a second here.
Yeah, let's get into it. So did you open right out of school? Did you open your own practice no. Or did you work in an office?
Yeah. So I am an associate right now at Waterman Chiropractic. It's in San Ramon, California. Okay. So a little bit of timeline. It's, I don't know when this will go live, but this is, it's January right now. So we just passed the new year, 2021. I graduated March 2020. So I don't know, the first wave of lockdown crap happened March 13th, I think. And I had my last finals week canceled of school, actually. It was like the school just closed for a week, and it was like, okay, I'm done with school. Like that was a little anticlimactic. That was weird. Like it was nice that I didn't have to take my last finals, but we were just like gone like that. So, and it was, I didn't have work. I didn't have anything lined up. I was, I had my name in the hat with some people, but I'd say probably half the people that we graduated with, like in my cohort, had jobs or had places lined up to go that like fell through like that because of, all the uncertainty that was going on. Like there was people that, had a job lined up, and then all of a sudden they're working at Sprouts, like, doing groceries, like, or like, doing Uber driving. And
that's real. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, so that part sucked, but I happened to get hired within that week. I had already been talking to Waterman, and they've been great the whole time. They took me in, and it's through Brad Glowacki's Level Up Mentoring. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he basically it's like an 18-month program where you work with a certain office, and then the beginning part, you're getting trained up on all the systems, day 1, day 2 stuff. The middle, like 12 months, you're being an associate doc, like full time. And then last couple months, you're training your replacement. So it's kind of like a wheel that goes through. But with that, like I know how to do every job within the office. Like I understand all the billing. I understand, everything at the front desk. I understand everything as a doc. And then the last thing I'll do is actually train somebody. I don't know if we just cut out there. Last thing I'll do is actually train my replacements, so that it's just kind of like a wheel of people that keep coming through in a good way, because if you get hooked up with an office that's doing it the right way, you can learn a lot, and also continue kind of make sure that I'm not just bring people in to get them under care and then I leave. Like they'll go to somebody that I'm like, no, this guy's legit. Like he'll be good. So that part's been cool. But no, to kind of get into, I think how I've been connecting with a lot of people this year, and how we connected was just through Instagram. About 2 months ago, I got licensed. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a waiting period there. And then, um, yeah, I had some posts that I put up, and I really like solidified. This was only like a couple weeks ago. We're really in my head. I'm like looking at, why am I saying the things that I'm saying? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And what I realized throughout school, I studied so much like the philosophy of chiropractic, and part of the Delta Sigma Chi fraternity, that's what we do. We get together every week and we talk philosophy and we chop it up and keep it real in that regard, and try to figure out what it is that we're doing from a natural health standpoint, and really stay rooted and convicted in that. But what I realized this year was that, from the beginning of this whole lockdown stuff, like I didn't buy what they were saying, because it didn't make sense from a cause and effect standpoint, like as to what was happening. Like if someone's going to get sick with anything, whatever you want to call it, it's always going to be because of a lack of adaptability. And that's what chiropractic is, right? It's about adaptability. And I thought that it was such a gross overstep of, whatever you want to call it, like mainstream media, pharma, like all this. And it's been so much fear mongering, and so many people that have gotten out of touch with their own instinct and their own, I'd say like innate ability to heal when they're connected to, just things natural, like outdoor movement, sleep, circadian rhythm, good thought, like all these things that are just, I'd say were concepts that we really understood through school and through studying it. But at the same time, it's like, you just kind of have to live it. And I feel like I had a great 2020, like I was living really well, and this stuff was still just like going on. And I just kind of like, I had drawn my line in the sand, and I was like, okay, it's more than just standing for natural health and everything about that. Like, I see people that just post and comment stuff, and it's just like, it falls on deaf ears, because at the same time, like, as much as I'm passionate about that, I'm like equally passionate about when somebody crosses that line in the sand and starts to, get in the head and like interfere with other people's lives in a negative way. And what I think has happened here is, like they say, I think Elon Musk said, like, the coronavirus is the media. Like like that's the virus. Like the news is the virus. And I think right now what's happening, and I've seen it with a lot of people. It's been almost like a, unlearning and relearning process with people through social media, as far as like, okay, people have really taken a step back and said like, okay, well, what's health? What's it mean to me? And then why is it important? Why is it important for, my expression? And then looking longer term, is this the precedent that we want to set for our kids coming through and for our families? And for me, that's like my purpose, right? Like, I just got engaged last month, and so it's
Congrats.
Kirsten. Thanks, man. Thanks. I pointed like she's in bed, but she's not here. She's coming back from Canada tomorrow. But like a big part of my like purpose and reason why is like starting a family with her in the future. And, knowing that there's so many like uncertain question marks, not with chiropractic and not with any of that, but just like where, I guess American life and like healthcare and all these things are going, that it's like, I'm trying to create a better future for us. And then, when we have children and start a family, like that we're bringing them into something that we're proud of. So
Yeah, it's
I'm like,
definitely difficult
yeah,
when you become a chiropractor. You become like extra woke to the connection that you have to your environment. And when your environment around you starts behaving and acting in a way that's out of integrity with the natural laws of how it has historically, you have to recalibrate and sort of reset what the new normative is. And people keep using the new normal, and they don't realize they're actually speaking in almost scientific terms, right? Allostatic load is the environmental stressors cause you to reach a new normal of blood pressure or of respiratory rate. And looking at screens all day is lowering people's respiratory rate to be a lot, or a lot faster breathing and or shallow breathing. And being a chiropractor, you start to see these connections as a student. immediately. Once you get into school, you start questioning things that maybe you've never questioned before in life. And then you get out and you get back into society, and it's a little bit difficult to re-enter into an environment that is, because in chiropractic school, it's a little bubble, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
we're extra conscious of like the cause and effect, and the relationship between our choices every day and how our body functions. But then people get out into society and they realize how medically oriented people have been programmed, and the cultural hypnosis is to be scared first, like to start with fear, to start with this place of lacking
Right.
intelligence within. So I hear you, man. It sounds like you said you're drawing a line in the sand, and you're really stepping up for what you believe in, and that's gained you followers. That's made you more attractive, because people today, and this is why I think more people need to think of becoming chiropractors. People today really need a leader who is more hopeful, has faith in the body and the body's ability to adapt. So um, I'm just reflecting on what I heard you just speak
Sure. Yeah.
about.
No, that was beautiful, man. Thank you for that. Yeah, and you have kids, right?
I just had my first kid. Yeah.
Nice, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
I think, all of us are. I had a lot of friends this year that just had kids, and kind of the low key question is kind of like, well, what's it going to be like, like moving forward.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
People
that,
ask me the biggest thing that's changed in my life since having a kid. And I
yeah,
tell them, being extra woke like I am to what's going on with our environment, our climate change, the disparity in access to the general population's ability to access clean water or good food,
mm,
or stay away from the heavily toxin rich foods or the heavy toxin rich choices and the V word, and I'll say
yeah,
vaccines, and just
yeah,
there's a lot going on right now where fertility rates are going down, and fear rates are going up. And as a chiropractor, yeah, you start to wonder, wow, if I just had this baby, by the time this baby's 20 years old and the ice caps have melted in Antarctica, and nuclear reactors are melting down, and hopefully there's no bombs being dropped, but if there is, that just heats the environment up even more. Like, what does our future look
yeah,
like? And it becomes a little bit apocalyptic and a little bit depressing. But being a chiropractor, I also just stay conscious in the moment, and I say, I'm just happy that I get to go to the office every day and take care of people and have an uplifting environment, enjoy my life while I'm here right now.
for
I don't
sure.
mean to be
Yeah.
so like that on
No,
this
no, 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 no,
podcast,
no,
but
no,
I'm just being
no,
real
no.
with you.
I get like that too. And I kind of think that, like there's laws of rhythm, and there's always a balancing, right? Like as bad as, you know, uh, the facade of 2020 appeared, right? Like I still feel like, um, you look at it with healing, right? Like, uh, everybody has to bottom out. Everything has to bottom out before there's some sort of, desire for change. And for me, it was something as I thought it was the physicality of a back injury and being like, oh, I can't do some of the things I enjoy. And I didn't realize that it was actually the integrative, like, whole part of me that was, okay, like this is like there's underlying stuff that I haven't dealt with subconsciously in my own mind. There's thought processes that I have that are keeping me tethered and keeping me stuck, and keeping me unhappy, whatever you want to call it, not purpose driven. And I think that, before I go off way too far on a tangent, like that bottoming out has to happen. And what I hope, and I know it happened for a lot of people, they kind of had that like FU moment where they were like, no, this is as far down as it's going to go. And as far down as we're going to let this go for our family. And, um, they just, they put their foot down and they made a change. And the crazy thing about this whole like isolation and separation thing is there's no, it's the reason why like a laboratory doesn't work, right? Like you can't isolate variables. There's no single variable of thing that happen. Like that doesn't happen anywhere in nature. That doesn't happen anywhere in the universe. There's no isolation and separatism. And what's happening with all the isolation and people not being able to talk to each other is that they aren't having dialogues like this, or dialogues that can change their mind. They're stuck in echo chambers, which is like, having a set of glasses that you can only see through a certain lens, right? That they don't understand that they have this 360-degree vision that they could use, and they're staying like single-minded, locked into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the only conversations that like, it's just one-sided. Like it's like TV talking at you, or news talking at you, or you know, things that there's really no empathy with, just like, you know, keyboard warrior sending a message, or, you know, sending a comment. And I think that's been a lot of, I've had the most normal interactions with people face to face all year. And when the only subluxation in the whole thing is, you know, connection, screen time, like the lack of connection, rather, like screen time, or, you know, reading something. So, yeah, I think,
just to like kind of piggyback on that message, it's the main reason why I believe that we need more people considering becoming chiropractors, because this is a purpose-driven path that we've chosen for ourselves. As chiropractors, you get to meet people face to face. You get to connect with them on a deeper level than you can through a screen, or that you can just saying hi in the supermarket. And it allows you to start to feel more connected to your community. It starts to make you feel more involved in the world. And I just think that we need more connection in the future. And the best way to do that, one of the best ways to do that, is to become a chiropractor within the context of healthcare professions. I think that we spend more time with people, we see people more often, and this type of dialogue we're having, I think that prospective students will see that, hey, we're not irrational. We're coming at it from a logical standpoint that, hey, if things don't work this way in nature and in the universe, and we as a society, as a sort of culture, are pre-programming of the next generation to think like unnatural and in a disconnected kind of way from the reality, then chiropractors are going to need to be the truth leaders, or the truth givers, or the hope dealers to remind people, like you said, learn and unlearn. And
right. Yeah, I don't think nature makes any mistakes, right? So when you're kind of living in accordance with it, I mean, I joke around about it, but like, you become tougher to kill when you're living like that, right? And I mean, ultimately, that's kind of the goal of our innate intelligence, which is to keep us alive, and to self-organize, and to heal, and to keep us going. And I think when you're living like that, when you're living connected, that's kind of the result. You live at a higher expression, higher vibration, and at the same time, I mean, less likely to die. But yeah, and I think just contextualizing, you know, like the emergency care in the U.S. is phenomenal. Like if I, you know, got hit by a car, Lord willing, or gunshot wound, anything like that, I would hope you didn't bring me to a chiropractor. Like, you need something to stop the bleeding and to keep you alive. And medical model is great at keeping people alive. But then the people in the middle here, there's like people in the gray area. It's like, well, what do we do? Right. And that's kind of where we are here. Like the vitalistic, you know, your body's supposed to be well, like normal is well, normal is your body at ease. And there's really no, trying to figure out where the camera is. There's really nothing for the people in the middle there. And I hope that that's where people really want this to go. And I think people need to have conversations to start really getting to the root of, like, the veil has to be lifted on this whole, it's a coronavirus thing, right? Because people are going to realize that it's not about, you know, a big health crisis, and that it's, you know, it comes down to adaptability. And when people understand that, they'll realize that there's other reasons, I think, hopefully, that they start to think that, and then they start to think, okay, if I want to become a healer, how do I want to do it? Or if I'm going to, you know, seek some sort of healthcare for myself and for my family, where am I going to go?
So what are some quick recommendations you would give to a prospective student to better adapt to this decision-making process, to ask themselves some great questions, and or have some specific experiences? Like how can we help somebody better adapt to their entrance into chiropractic school? And then also, if they're not even in college yet, which path they should take to prepare themselves to become a chiropractor?
So I was a business economics major in undergrad. Didn't study any sort of didn't take a science class from the time I was, I don't know. I think I took astronomy freshman year of college. And that's not like, that has nothing to do with anatomy or anything. So don't worry about having any sort of science background. Like we had art history majors coming in. We had, so, I mean, you'll learn whatever you need to at school. And that's it sucks about drinking out of the fire hose, like 3.5 years of just stuff nonstop coming at you. And it's even, I'd say it's going to be a different challenge having everything be online. Like everything for the past 4 quarters of school has been online since this whole thing started. So the worst part of school was being there from like 7 to 5 every day and just like feeling kind of stuck and like losing part of yourself. But at the same time, you're in that sucky experience with everybody else. And like chiro school is a blast, man. Like I had fun, like just meeting the people there. Like that was such an experience. And I feel like with it being online right now, it would be really tough to like, create that same environment and create that same culture. So I do kind of worry about the future of some of the chiro schools for that reason. I mean, in true chiropractic form, though, the schools will all adapt and it'll all kind of equal out. But as far as where to start, if you're thinking about it, I'd say shadow an office, go just spend an afternoon or spend a morning with a doc, go out to coffee, go out to grab a bite to eat, and just talk about what they do. I probably did that with probably only like 3 or 4 docs before school, but I lived in a lot of different areas. So after being in Atlanta, I lived in Austin, Texas. So I was under upper cervical care there with a great doc who told me to check out Life West. And she was like, at worst, you'll get a paid weekend to go out there and just check out the school and you'll be, in the Bay Area. And I was like, I'm not going to California. Like, I'll go check it out. And here I am 5 years later still. So, so that was great. And then I lived in Europe. I lived in Australia after that, before starting school. And I was under care in Australia. I was under care, just in different places. I lived in Boston for a little bit with my family before going back to school too. So I met a lot of different chiropractors, and from like a vitalistic standpoint, all of them said either one of 3 schools. They said Life U in Atlanta, Life West here in Hayward, California, or Sherman in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I played baseball at Wofford in South Carolina, in Spartanburg. So I went there for undergrad and I already lived there. And then I lived in Atlanta where Life U is. And then I just kind of realized, well, I don't want to move back to either of those places. Nothing against them, but I just would rather go somewhere I've never been. So that was pretty much the only factor in deciding to come out to California. It was just process of elimination. I said, I'm going to come out here. So made the right decision because I met the love of my life, and now I'm engaged to, she's going to be a badass pediatric chiropractor and, ICPA, prenatal, all that. So I made the right call for sure. But there was points
and
where
it sounds like you're happy with the path in general of becoming a chiropractor.
Yeah, I just wish more chiropractors right now were stepping up, and I'd say doing their part with being able to not have the fear of like having the conversation with the patient about what's going on right now, and to actually have the conversation about health and adaptability the way it is, rather than, catering to people's fears about, continuing all the lockdown madness and all this. Because if we're one of the only people that they're talking to and they have rapport with us, they'll listen to what we're saying. And if we can have a logical conversation from a logical, principled standpoint, we might be the only person that can really say it. So
what if you were in an interaction with a patient, how would you have that conversation? Because obviously you don't have a lot of time. You're probably going to just talk to them for about 1 to 2 minutes about this whole topic. How do you kind of how do you meet them where they're at? But because this is a healing experience that they're having. They're coming to you to get better, or they're coming to you to just continue living their best life, whatever their reason is. How do you meet them where they're at and communicate really quickly how to understand what's going on right now?
Well, I have a good one that I started doing in like day ones, like right when you meet somebody, just to explain subluxation and kind of what we're doing. Brain is sending messages through the spinal cord to every part of the body, out the nerves that exit the spine. And it needs to do that really clearly. And you need to get a really clear message there. And what happens when there's abnormal motion or a misalignment in the spine is that message can go from being like, hey, hand, I want you to make a fist, to no one's and one thing that's really similar to that, ironically, in 2020 is that we're all wearing these masks on our face, and people are like, oh yeah, that kind of makes like, I kind of take a jab indirectly at masks. And at that point, a lot of people have already just taken the mask off and been like, this is stupid. But you kind of like educate from that standpoint, like, hey, this is interference with something natural, right? Like, so that part there. And then always kind of just see where people are at. You know, like there's no cookie cutter one way to explain it. But I had one patient who was talking about like, you know, his in-laws. So he canceled his appointments for 2 weeks because he's like, my in-laws tested positive for COVID and my wife tested positive for COVID, but I didn't. But I'm just quarantining for 2 weeks anyway. And I was just like, I was like, okay. In my head, I'm like, well, first of all, if you do test positive, you better get your ass in here to get checked, because like you need to have like a clear system to be able to fight whatever this is. If you were truly positive and if the test did mean anything. But let's just say in a hypothetical world that you did, right? I went in and told the whole story about the Spanish flu pandemic, 1918, with, you know, how all the chiropractors had such a, you know, they were given like the patients who the medical doctors had given up on them. They were like, these patients are going to die. Go ahead and do whatever you want to them. And I think out of, you know, a group of 10,000 patients or some ridiculous number, there was, I don't know, 1,000 that died in the medical clinic. And then there was only like, you know, 300 out of the 10,000 that died in the chiropractic tent, or like even less than that. It was some like crazy low number of like people that were worse off, that were like gonna die, that healed, right, and got over whatever it was, from the chiropractic side, which was, you know, open air tents outside, getting sunlight, you know, walking, or like just natural environment, and obviously getting checked and letting the nervous system do its thing and clear. So what I told that exact thing to him. I was just like, look, if something does happen, like you got to get checked first so that your body can adapt to this and heal from this appropriately, right? Like your body's obviously trying to get rid of something. You need to help that out in as many ways as you can. So if you were to test, like he was like, oh, wow, I didn't. So I was like, so why do you think you were the only negative test out of everybody? He's like, because I come see you. And I was like, yeah, man. And he was just like, oh, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah. So it's little things like that, right? Like,
no doubt. No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate it. No, we don't need any more examples. That sounds good. I appreciate you going there. And I know that, like you said, a lot of us as chiropractors right now are kind of just keeping it low key with the amount of outward expressions on social media and online. And
I'm only doing the social media thing because it's like I don't know, part of me likes kind of being the poking the bear, the honey badger, you know, like trolling a little bit. But it also comes from like logic. Like I feel like I'm making logical statements and logical arguments. Like I'm not just out here saying, you know, whatever. So I just hope that the chiropractors, when they're face to face in person, are, you know, having the courage to speak the principle, because it's
all right. 2 more minutes. Last question. If chiropractors were given, say, $100 million grant, and we had, say, another 100,000 chiropractors in the next 5 or 10 years with an extra 100 million to play with, where do we put that money? How do we move forward as a profession out of abundance? Because I see the profession playing defense a lot, constantly operating out of almost a lack as opposed to an abundance, which is what I think the profession is rooted in and its philosophy. And so how does the profession expand in a way that's in integrity, but also in a way that's making the most impact, or just however you see it? Where do we put that money? How do we put our effort? Just be creative.
Right. No, that's the first thing that popped into my head, and I'll always say the first thing that pops in is that we'd probably mess it up somehow, but that's not really like, I don't know if that provides an answer really. Like, I don't know. It just seems like the profession in and of itself it kind of has the vitalistic split and the mechanistic split. Like there's almost two sides. Not that there's sides, but, and it's kind of an illusion because both sides agree more than they really think they do. Like there's less differences than they think. I think that's just kind of an illusion. But I don't know, like having some sort of, I don't know, I guess everybody knocks like the research part, like the lack of research. I'd say at least a little bit would have to go into that. But then just creating some sort of, I don't know, like badass vitalistic school. I don't know, man. That's such a complex question. Yeah,
It's all good.
I
It's
feel
all
like
good.
I was ready. I feel like I was ready for any question except that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I try not to identify too strongly as a chiropractor. Like I am, like I feel like I'm as principled as it gets, and like I live it. But at the same time, you know, I identified too much earlier in my life as like a baseball player, right? And I put my self-worth to that. And I'm just trying not to fall into the same trap and realize that I'm Alex first. And then, you know, all these other, you can put these other like labels or put me into groups, but I'm, you know, like that's just not, that's not 100% me. Like I put on my pants and I put on my work shirt and I go play chiropractor for a bit. And it happens to jive very strongly with who I am in here, but it's also just one of the hats I wear. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Appreciate you being a dynamic individual and
yeah, thanks, man.
sharing just unfiltered, uncut, raw version of yourself today. I mean, this podcast is really built for prospective students, but I realize that we also got to just speak from who we are, where we are, and I appreciate you doing that.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, if you're considering going to school, I said shadow. Also, just reach out to people. I'm happy to answer questions, but if you've gotten anything just from listening to this, you can definitely forecast what kind of answers I'm going to give you. Like I'm pretty straight shooter. So yeah,